Hey, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. You know, we all know that's funny, that Reaganism is funny because everybody knows it's not true. It's often that the government doesn't help. In fact, most of the time, they hurt more than anything else. So my name's Scott Peotter. I'm running for Newport Beach City Council. I'm running in the 6th District in Newport Beach, excuse me. Unlike Costa Mesa, you know, Newport always does things one better. They figure if 5 council people are good, 7's better. So we've got 7 council people in Newport Beach. We divide our city up into 7 districts. Now, you still get elected citywide, but you have to be from that particular district. This election cycle, we've got 4 districts that are up for election. 3 of them are open seats. I'm running for one of them. I'm running in Nancy Gardner's current district, which is over in Corona del Mar. John kind of alluded to it. What we've been working on is basically we'd like to come in and with a slate and take all 4 of those seats. There's one incumbent. The one incumbent is Rush Hill. I want to tell you that I was trying to come up with a good joke to start out with, and I realized we elected them all, so sorry about that. Government, by its nature, is just, it's inefficient. It can't do anything. It takes money that's not theirs, spends it on things that they don't use. The citizens theoretically do, but the government doesn't. And we wonder why we have $800 toilet seats. You know, it's one of those things that we should give government as little to do as possible. I mean, can anybody here give me an example of good government? I mean, are we talking DMV, post office, Obamacare? I mean, it's not a pretty sight, right? You know, even the military has $800 toilet seats. Maybe that the government's the only one that can do the military, but it's not efficient the way that it does it. Now, government's gone wild. Newport Beach, I like it. One word, can everybody relate to this? The Taj-Ma-City-Hall. Now, I call it one word. I coined that phrase in my Newport Beach Independent column that I was the token conservative in that newspaper that went out once a week. And the Taj-Ma-City-Hall started out as a $40 million remodel of the existing facility down on the peninsula, and ended up being a $142 million Taj Mahal over by Fashion Island. And that's on property that was given to them for free by the Irvine Company. So they didn't have to pay for the property. They had to grade it, and the grading was bad, and they sunk the thing down really low, so they moved a lot of dirt out of there. And we also have 24 white bunnies around. Have you seen the white bunnies? They have this one with about 12 in a circle. We call it Bunnyhenge, and it reminds everybody of Stonehenge. It only cost $250,000. I mean, we're in good shape there, right? So after they get into their spending mode, what's the natural thing that comes next? Taxes. So what do? They raise the dock tax. And we've just, in fact, settled a lawsuit in the city by the dock tax people who sued the city afterwards. The city raised the dock taxes for those homeowners that had docks, that were fortunate enough to have docks. They raised them from a $100 annual fee to some of them are in the $3,000 to $4,000 to $5,000 a year range. So they raised them up to 5,000%. Now, they say that it wasn't to pay for the Taj-Ma-City-Hall, but you know, it happened so close, it's kind of hard. Well, it happened. So we'll give them a break. So let's see, they spend, they tax, what do they do next? Well, what else is government good at? Regulating. So what's the one thing that they decided to do that affected all of us? They decided to go and get rid of the fire rings on the peninsula and in Corona del Mar Beach. They go to the Coastal Commission and say, we want to get rid of these fire rings. Coastal Commission goes, yeah, I'm not so sure, but there was a guy in the Coastal Commission that worked for the AQMD, was also a board member there. He goes, hey, that's a really good idea. Let me take it to AQMD, and let's see if we can get rid of all the fire rings on all the beaches in all of Southern California. Thank you, Newport Beach. I knew you'd appreciate that. I am married to my wife, Linda. We've been married almost 34 years. We've got 3 grown children, all born at Hoag Hospital. My youngest 2 graduated from Corona del Mar High School, where they were water polo players and swimmers. We've lived in Newport Beach. We've lived all our lives here in the Irvine, Newport area. We lived in Newport Beach for the last 8 years. And I was on the Planning Commission in Newport Beach for 4 years. And before that, I was on the Irvine Planning Commission for 8 years. I'm an architect by training. I do architectural project management and entitlement. Entitlement's one of those fancy words that basically says if you want to build something on your own property, you have to get entitled to do that by the city first. And I help people through that red tape. I'm also a political junkie. I've been a political junkie for the last couple of decades. I actually currently work part-time for Assemblyman Allan Mansoor, which is really fun because it allows me to come to events like this, allows me to get a really good understanding of what's going on in Sacramento and how bad our state is really going. So being that political junkie, what I would like to do, and my plan is, call it the Peotter plan, if you will. If you recall, Bill Whittle, when he came here last year sometime, he called it on-demand government. Call it point-and-click government. We need to get government back to where it's only there when you need it, right? Otherwise, it's gone. It's invisible. And when you do need it, it should be easy to use and easily accessible. Now, I know the oxymoron of efficient government. Yeah, there aren't too many cases of efficient government. But the idea here is that government, government's just not efficient, what can I say? Government needs to, it needs to be there. We can't get by without it. On the other hand, we also don't want to go out and build monuments and edifices to ourselves just so that we can have our name on the plaque. In fact, one of the councilmen, they go around and ask or brag about how Newport Beach has got a AAA credit rating and how they've got $140 million in reserves, more reserves than the city has ever had. Now, they neglect to tell you that they have $140 million in debt from the Taj-Ma-City-Hall, but they have this big reserve. So as a result, they have this AAA credit rating. Well, let's put that back to a number that we can relate. Let's say a poor Newport Beach couple. They've got $8,000 a month in expenses. Now, if you're Costa Mesa, you got about $6,000 a month in income, and you're doing your best to figure out how am I, and this doesn't count the pensions, sorry, Jim. You're doing your best to figure out how am I going to raise my revenue and cut my expenses so that I can get those two to meet. Well, in Newport Beach, they're blessed. They've got $10,000 a month income. They're putting a couple $1,000s in the bank every month. But it still doesn't address the fact that they're not spending the $8,000 wisely in what they're doing and how they're doing it. So my concept is let's minimize government. Is this thing dying? Let's minimize government. Let's go ahead and make it as efficient as possible. I know it's an oxymoron. And let's get out of the regulation business of fire pits. And I mean, you're not going to get rid of the Taj Mahal, face it. You're not going to turn it into an office building. But there's no reason why we can't pay down that debt and go forward as debt-free, change our pensions like Jim was talking about, where we go with defined contributions rather than defined benefits, which is what the private sector did 30 years ago. American Airlines did that in their bankruptcy, and they got their costs under control. And of course, every airline after that went bankrupt. The cities may have to do that if that's what it takes to get out of what's going on with the pensions. Yeah, I think the battery's starting to go. But, so the real thing here is that we need to outsource where we can, make government as efficient as possible, and there's just one more thing. You can keep your doctor if you want. Hey, politicians will say anything to get elected. My name is Scott Peotter. You can check out me, my issues on peotter.com, and don't forget to hit the donate button. And if you have any questions, I'm available for questions. Question was, what's the city doing with the old City Hall? That's a really good question. Rather than selling it and paying down debt, instead they're going to go into the hotel business. Which we all need to do as a city, right? So they're leasing out the land to R.D. Olson. R.D. Olson's building a hotel. It's a very nice design. It's, I think, actually a good use for the property. My disagreement is the city should sell the property and pay down debt. They shouldn't be in the hotel business and leasing the land out to a hotel developer. I also don't like the way that they're zoning it. I do this for a living. The whole area there, commercial and residential, there's a height limit of 28 feet with some allowances to go up to 32 feet. They decided for their property only, they're going to go up to 65 feet. I always wished I could do that just for my own clients and raise the requirements and put more onto the property. And I don't think that's right. If they're going to do it, they need to zone for the whole Lido area, which is kind of hurting anyway. So, John.
There's been some discussion about water taxis and bringing the moorings together in some sort of offshore dock where water and electricity is supplied to the dock. But some of us have talked with some of the people who have those moorings, and they don't seem very excited about it. I was wondering, do you think that the water taxi situation should be something that a government attends to, or would it be better off as a private sector sort of offering?
So his question is right now, Mayor Rush Hill has this, he calls it his Newport initiative, where he's proposing to take the moorings out, put in a floating dock system to replace it, and then in order to be able to get people to those docks, institute a water taxi system that the public would be able to use as well. So if you wanted to go from one side to the other, rather than driving all the way around on the peninsula, you could take a shortcut without having to use the ferry. You'll use the taxi service. It's a great idea, but like most transportation systems instituted by cities, they're subsidized. It'll be a subsidized mass transit. In fact, in other cities where it's happened, in Fort Lauderdale, for instance, the taxi system ended up being a cheaper tour boat process. So the tourists could come down and pay the taxi fee, and it was less than renting a Duffy boat or taking a guided tour around. And not to mention the fact that I think there are people that I've talked to that have kind of a culture. The mooring is kind of a different kind of a culture. They like being out on their own. Now all of a sudden you're going to group them together onto a dock that's a private or that's floating together, and the mooring people aren't interested. They don't like it. His concept was to pull them together because it takes less space in a dock for 4 boats than it does 4 moorings, and it would allow more of the harbor to be available for recreation use. It's good in theory, but I think in practice and in cost, it's something else.
There was one other agenda item that was mentioned in, I guess, the mayor's speech, that he wanted to build a public golf course on a landfill. And I was wondering if you thought that private enterprise should be doing that, or would it be better to have the government to run a golf course?
Yeah, one of the other mayor's initiatives is to turn Coyote Canyon Land Fill into a municipal golf course. For those of you that live in Newport Beach, your green fees would be subsidized. For those of you that in Costa Mesa, you'll be helping to pay for those fees in for the Newport Beach residents. So the Newport Beach residents would get a discount. It's his way of, he's up for election. So it's a way to buy votes. And so his proposal, there's a lot of people, I mean, as far as what do you put on a dump, a golf course is actually not a bad use for it. A municipal golf course, well, and that's why a lot of municipal golf courses hire outside companies to run their golf courses, because they're no good at it. You know, one of the things about Newport Beach, they've got more employees per capita than any other city in the entire county. So guess what? As a result, they also have the highest unfunded liability per capita of any city in Newport Beach, or in the county of Orange. And now we're going to add more employees because we're going to have a municipal golf course. And then the last thing that the mayor is doing as part of his initiative to buy votes is to, he's lowering, in fact, he's waiving all building permit fees from now till December for anybody that wants to pull a permit in Newport Beach. Of course, everybody's a taxpayer, and the $140 million surplus, everybody contributes to, but only those people that are going to pull building permits are going to get any of it back in the form of reduced fees. Newport Beach also has the distinction of $200,000 lifeguards, but there's a website out there called Transparent California that takes the wages, the health benefits, and the pension costs. Doesn't include the unfunded liabilities on those pension costs, just what the city reports that they're paying for that. So the Secretary of State has information because of the whole Bell fiasco, City of Bell. They'll put the pension costs and the salaries on the webpage, and you can get an idea. You can look up employees by name and find out what they make. But what this site does, it also adds health benefits. City of Newport Beach has 12 people that make over $300,000 a year combined, most of those in the $330 to $350 range. Those lifeguards that are $200,000, when you add their pensions and health benefits to it, is nearly $300,000. We really have $300,000 lifeguards. And that when they decided to privatize the trash, they privatized, they're in the process of switching that over now. They were the very last city to privatize trash. They were the only city that provided their own employees to pick up the trash. And because there was such a uproar by the residents, they didn't fire any of the employees. 2 of them are retiring, and the other 14, they're finding places in other parts of government for them. So is there really a cost savings? I'm not sure about that. So, any other questions? Bonnie.
I don't know if you, when Jim was talking, he said something about the change in accounting rules so that the unfunded liabilities for our pensions now have to go on the city's books. Who made that change? Was that a state thing?
It is statewide. It is, I don't know what the government accounting process
There are 2 different accounting standards: the Financial Accounting Standards Board, which is private sector accounting, and you have the Government Accounting Standards Board. And the short is GASB, G-A-S-B, Government Accounting Standing Board, and that has changed. It's GASB 68 is what's kicking in for the reporting on all of the agencies. This year, CalPERS has to put it. That's GASB 67. So this year, the providers have to include it in their statements. Next year, the agencies that are using those pension plans have to put it on their books. So that'll be Newport Beach, Costa Mesa, State of California. They all have to put it on their books next year.
Jeff,
So it's a state mandate.
That's, Government Accounting Standards is a U.S. organization.
Oh.
It's an accounting organization.
Jeff, does CalPERS have to do that?
Yes.
CalPERS has to put the outstanding debt, how much they're unfunded?
Yes, they report that now, but the standard is a little bit more stringent.
One of the things that I've been told is that at CalPERS, if you were an Aetna or some sort of a mutual fund and you invested in real estate and you invested back in 2005 when things are going well, you got a $2 billion portfolio, but today it's only worth $1 billion. You have to report that. You have to mark that to market. But CalPERS doesn't, and they haven't. They're keeping it marked on the books as they originally purchased it. Now, if the economy turns around, inflation goes double digits, the issue's moot unless they need it for liquidity purposes. They have to sell it in order to pay a bill. But there's a lot less assets there under current market rates than what exist on their books.
That's one of the big changes in the GASB 67. They were using, CalPERS is using actuarial value of assets, where they were doing the smoothing, very complicated smoothing process. And the idea was good. They wanted to keep the rates steady for the city so they didn't get a rate shock, when the assets would go up and down. And one of the big changes is, just like you, when you look at your stock statement, you have to use market value of assets. They have to book that instead of doing this smoothing methodology.
And that goes into effect the
That goes
214, 215?
That goes into effect 2013, 2014 for CalPERS, 2014, 2015 for all the agencies that use them.
So we're going to finally be able to have some sort of standards that will be able to compare city to city and actually understand some of the finances that are going on. I guess the city has over 100 people, City of Newport Beach has over 100 people that are currently pensioners that earn over $100,000 in pensions every year. That's for not working. Sorry. Any other questions?
How can I get one of those jobs?
I know. I always said, coming out of school in architecture, there were opportunities to go to work for the cities. Planners especially like to go to work for the cities. And it used to be the cities paid poorer, but their pension was a little better, and the net overall, you could kind of equal it. And the private sector always pulled it. But their salaries have continued to go up and up and up, and the private sectors have actually gone down. But when was the last time you ever heard of a government employee whose salary went down? Cost of living increase is not also cost of living decrease. So yeah, market to market. It's one of those things, I personally don't believe public employee unions should exist. It's one of those things where, I'm in the construction business, and a union contractor, let's say an electrician, is out there and he's bidding, and the electricians go, we're going to go on strike. We want more money. We want, $40 an hour instead of 25. The guy can sit there and go, yeah, okay, I can give you. I'd love to give it to you, but we won't get any work because I got this other non-union electrical contractor over here that keeps undercutting me. And so, yeah, I'll pay you $40 an hour and you'll be sitting on your butt because there won't be any work for it. Who keeps the public employee unions in check? Who's competing against them, keeping them in check? There's nobody keeping them in check. And the politicians, as Jim has found out, they're basically passing the buck to the next guy that's going to be in his seat. And so they can be the good guy, the city goes well, and the guy behind him is the one that's going to end up paying the bills. So thank you very much. Kathy?
Can I just say a real quick word? Can I use that microphone for a minute?
Is it okay to give it to her?
Here we go. Okay, Scott did not ask me to say anything, but I'm going to because I have known him for over 30 years. We met as a group of single Christians through Mariners Church. It's a little bit of fun history called Salt Company, and that's where he met his wife. I did not meet my husband there, but many, many friends came out of that group. And over the years, by staying connected as friends within the Salt Company group, Scott has remained a truly honest, forthright. You can see how intelligent he is. He knows a lot about everything in the government. And really, if you live anywhere in near Corona Del Mar, or friends that live in Corona Del Mar, or vice versa, just spread the word. He is truly someone you want in Newport Beach on the city council. He will be awesome, and he will be a go-getter. He is tireless. He's been to our meetings ever since we practically have started him, and at that time, I think you lived in Newport Beach then too, but anyway. So Scott, good luck. You've got my vote if I lived in Corona Del Mar.
Thank you, Kathy. I'll pay you later.
Thank you, Scott. And thank you to all of you who